lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host as always, Daniel Alameda, Jimmy on the ones and twos. Got a jam-packed show, a lot of stuff to get into. But before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studio. Week 12 is in the book, Daniels. And a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff didn't happen. And we're going to get into all that today. Make sure you guys drop your questions, your comments, your thoughts in the chat. Remember, this is the morning show that includes you in the conversation. We're going to have the conversation. We're going to talk about things. We're going to talk things through. And I think where I want to start is in New York. And it poses a question for me this morning. It's a simple question. It's an easy question. Has Brian Daboll lost the Giants locker room? Jimmy, roll the clip.
We had DJ at quarterback. I mean, take a look. It ain't the quarterback. So
what do you think?
What is it? I don't know what it is.
Is it the play?
Everybody know better than me.
Is it the play call?
We'll take 3 more.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I know I'm tired of losing. Don't get the ball, start getting targets at the end. I mean, can't do nothing. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What you want me to do?
Why in the first half are they not looking at you?
I don't know. Talk to Dave about that. Talk to Dave.
Did you say something to the coaches at halftime?
I mean, they know. They come up to me, ask me what plays I want. That was that. I mean, I don't know, man.
So it's interesting. You now have players alike like Dexter Lawrence and people who are locker room leaders like Malik Neighbors, who you guys just watching the video, that don't seem to be giving the vote of confidence to a Brian Daboll, which I think is very interesting, right? You think about some of the decision making that has taken place recently, whether that be the benching of Daniel Jones, which then led to the release, of course, he asked for it, of Daniel Jones. And this is all after the ownership group came out and said, we believe in Joe Schoen, we believe in Brian Daboll, we believe in their future and their potential as the leaders of this team. This all unraveled after that. I've never seen an ownership group give a vote of confidence to a head coach and a GM and then see everything just unravel in less than a month. Mm-hmm. To me, the way the players are speaking out, it makes it an interesting conversation, an interesting topic, because will the Maras go back on their word? Will the Maras go back on their quote unquote vote of confidence? You have Malik Neighbors, who the Giants spent a premium pick on, who could be an absolute stud in this league, basically saying, I don't know, ask Brian Daboll why I just got the football when we were down 30-0. To me, it's interesting. To me, it makes for muddy waters. I love a tweet that I saw today. It was saying, the building is going to be very uncomfortable today because you don't know what I think the players are telling you what they're thinking, but you don't know what the upper management is thinking. Hell, you don't even know if you're Brian Daboll, how do you go about this? Right? You're in a volatile state, obviously, right now. But Danny, I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I've got 2 conversations to have. One, we'll have about the Giants front office and about the mismanagement of the talent. And 2 is the Brian Daboll and Malik Neighbors thing. First off, I applaud Malik Neighbors because this is exactly who Malik Neighbors said he was, right? And there was a clip that was on social media today about the pre-draft process. Everybody saw, I believe it was Hard Knocks, where they went and took a deep dive into the Giants in the offseason. And it was the pre-draft interview with the Giants and Malik Neighbors. And this exact question was posed from Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll asked them, hey, how do you handle losing? How do you handle not getting the ball early in games? And what was his answer, Malik? His answer was, I don't handle it well. I'm going to be honest. I handle it tough. He said, if I work my ass off throughout the week, work with the ones, work with the coaches, and I don't get the ball, I'm going to be honest, I handle it tough. And I think that this is a perfect example of what this Giants organization has come to. They knew that this was going to happen. Brian Dable said, hey, listen, I applaud that. I'm the same way. I hate losing. And it's okay if you hate losing, but a guy like Brian Dable has lost the locker room. Malik, I have no confidence in Brian Dable. I have no confidence in this GM. And that's just the state of the situation. You've lost 6 straight games. You are 2-8. This was a fall from grace from 2 seasons ago where you made the playoffs and you won Coach of the Year. Malik, I doubt anybody even cares about that at this point, except maybe the owner. I believe he's probably the only person in this entire fan base that gives a crap about the fact that you went to the playoffs and you won a playoff game two years ago. None of that matters now. It matters about what you're doing now, and you are a putrid team right now. And it's not so much about this team and what their future is, right? Because I do think that they could have a bright future. I do think that they have a lot of talent on their roster. But the issue is the players are speaking out. And when you lose a locker room, that's how you lose a team. And I believe that's where the New York Giants are. I think that the Malik Neighbors, the Dexter Lawrence, these players that are calling this team soft, that are saying, hey, especially what Malik Neighbors said, and it's very, poignant and important that you listen exactly what he said. He said that this is the same issue we had with Daniel Jones. So they believe it's not a quarterback thing. And that would be a totally different thing if we would have seen Tommy DeVito step in and have more success. But the fact that that didn't happen, the players, I believe, have lost confidence in Brian Dable, and they've lost confidence in the GM. And that brings me to my next point, Malik. I think that Joe Schoen has done a incredibly poor job, whether it's his fault or the mayor's fault, of retaining talent on this team. And maybe it's because we saw it on national media, but the fact that they didn't even try, to go out and get Saquon Barkley. We all saw the video, right? Saquon Barkley, Joe called Saquon and said, hey, we're going to let you go out and see what your market is. And we hope that you want to be a Giant. And for us, it's like, as a Saquon Barkley fan, as looking at Saquon Barkley, how can you feel confident in the organization, right? Saquon Barkley gets a phone call and says, hey, from his team that he hopes to re-sign with, that he hopes pays him the bag, they said, hey, you can go out and field all the offers, come back to us, and we'll see what we can do. Does that make you confident re-signing with the organization? Hell no. Saquon Barkley has spoke out about the Giants organization and said, hey, I hope Daniel Jones has more success, just like I did without the Giants organization. Then you go look at guys, Xavier McKinney, who's leading the NFL in interceptions, who's having an all-pro-like season. Then you look at Julian Love, and then you look at, there's so many different guys. Leonard Williams on the Seattle Seahawks is one of the best interior pass rushers, one of the best defensive ends in the NFL right now. He's not getting his credit. I went back and rewatched this week. He had 2.5 sacks against the Arizona Cardinals. This dude is creating serious pressure. He's a top 5, top 10 defensive lineman in the NFL right now. And these are all guys that the Giants didn't re-sign. So that's where my concern is with this Giants organization. I feel like Brian Dable has lost the locker room. And I'm very confident saying that if they continue this losing streak, Malik, I really struggle to see how Mara doesn't go back on that statement. And I can understand, okay, maybe he tries to stick with it, but you're on a 6-game losing streak. If you go on an 8, 10-game losing streak, this is just going to get much and much worse. And what's your cure? Are you going to go out and draft a Jalen Milroe and then immediately next year look a lot better? That's not how that works in the NFL. So I really struggle to see how Brian Dable can bounce back from this, especially because the pathway forward is Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock. It's not like you have a good quarterback, respectfully, right now. It's you kind of pigeonhole yourself, and you have a locker room that is in shambles. I'm just very, very, very concerned with this Giants team. And like I said, you got 4 or 5 games left in the season. You've got a couple easier games, but you got the Cowboys on, I believe that's Thanksgiving. I'm very concerned for this Giants team. And if I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm betting that they continue to lose a lot of games. And I don't know if Brian Dable's here at the end of the season.
I agree. I don't know what the future of Brian Dable holds in New York, but I don't know if the Myers can kind of go back on that, because that sets a bad precedent for future coaches and, and things of the future. For me, I look at the situation and I say, hey, it's a weird spot, because you have to listen to your players if you're an ownership group. You have to. You have to be able to listen to your players. And right now the vote of confidence doesn't seem to be there. But I'll go back to what I always say: winning cures everything. If you win a lot, people will show up, people will support, fans will be on board, players alike will be on board, and it'll make everything work a little more smoother. But the questions for the Giants is they don't have a franchise quarterback on their roster right now, so that's always going to be something that's up for discussion. We don't know what the thought process is right now of the ownership group and who they might be looking at. I know that they were at Cam Ward's game the other day, so it shows that maybe they have some level of interest in him as a potential quarterback. This is going to be very telltale, I will say, to see how they kind of handle the coming months and what goes into it. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content. Also, drop down in the comment section what you guys' thoughts are on the whole Brian Daboll New York Football Giants situation. I want to keep the conversation rolling. Let's talk about Gerard Mayo. And the question for me is simple: is Gerard Mayo the guy to lead in New England? I obviously know they said he was like a Bill Belichick clone. He obviously played under Bill Belichick, coached with Bill Belichick on that staff last year. But some of the comments he's made recently, some of the mishandling of game situations have people pressing the panic button a little bit. Now, undoubtedly, in New England, expectations are so much higher. They've done so much winning through the years that they won't settle for lackluster results. But I thought this was an interesting comment by Gerard Mayo made just the other day. Jimmy, if you can roll the clip.
Cross the white lines, there's nothing I can do for them. There's nothing any coach can do for them once they cross the white line. It's my job to continue to prepare not only them, but our coaches to go out here and play better football. Thanks.
So it brings up an interesting conversation, an interesting topic. Is Gerard Mayo still going to be the guy to lead for the New England Patriots? He said in his comments, it's just my job to coach. We can't do, we can't play for them once they get between the white lines. And I disagree. I think play calling is hugely important. I think that your job as a head coach, they're managing in personnel situations is extremely important. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think that Gerard Mayo, first off, the fan base, and this is exactly what you were talking about. The players and what the fan base are saying is extremely important. The fan base is completely out on Gerard Mayo. They are. Everybody's saying it. And I think that this team is playing scared football. And I think that this team is okay with mediocre. I think that's what this situation is right now. I think that you look at how this team is interacting with one another. You look at how this team is going about their business, and you just look at the play calling, right? 4th and 1s, punting the ball. 3rd and 16s, running the ball. It seems like, and I understand this thought process, and I use this example because this is a real example that I've had, right? We talked with Dan Campbell. We've talked with Brad Holmes when they were going through their rebuilding process. And they said there's multiple phases to it, right? You got the rebuilding phase, you have the retooling phase, you have the talent acquisition phase. Gerard Mayo and this front office has stated many times, this is going to be a long process. We are going to ease Drake May into this. We are going to ease this team into this. We know that this roster is not the most talented in the NFL, but it seems like they are just okay with this. And that's the issue. It's the whole conversation about tanking, right? People and fans believe that, okay, if you tank, you are going to be better, right? You lose more, you get a higher draft pick that's better for your future. Yes, while that sentiment reigns true at times, you also need to build that culture in that locker room and that winning, mentality in that locker room. And that's what I feel like Gerard Mayo is struggling with right now. I feel like he's okay and they're settling for this season being a developmental year. And that's where I truly have the issue with, right? I'm okay with the philosophy because once again, I truly understand it. The offensive line, the talent is a bottom 5 offensive line. When you look at the weapons in that receiver room, they have been putrid at times. You are relying on Demario Douglas as your wide receiver 1. You have rookie wide receivers dropping passes, not on the same page. You have Drake May playing hero ball. But that's where my issue is. And you go look at that statement that he made and you look at how the locker room, it seems like it's all from the top down. And I feel like Robert Kraft still has confidence in Gerard Mayo, and I struggle to see how Gerard Mayo is out after this year because it doesn't seem like the locker room is making a huge outcry about this. And that's to the point of Gerard Mayo. I'm sure he's told these guys, hey, we're going to try to go out here and win every single football game. But he's made it very clear this is a developmental year for them. And that's where my issue is, because how do you sell that to the fan base, right? And that's the part of the season that you're at right now. Like I said, I really go point to, you are playing scared football. Like, I'm not going to BS you. Like, there were many 4th downs, not just this week, but you go look at past couple weeks, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, where you got a rookie quarterback. This is where you get him the experience that you're not going for it. And you're running the ball. It really is. And you guys all who are watching this have very good football IQ. I'm sure if you guys turn on the Patriots and you watch them play, some of these play calls, it really screams scared football. And it really screams, hey, we're just in this to be here. Like, we're happy to be an NFL team right now. And that's what this team screams. And that's where I don't know if Gerard Mayo was fully ready for this, Malik. I don't think so. And you would hope that he would have learned under Bill Belichick. And I still think, and I've still got, hope for Gerard Mayo. I'm not fully out on him. I think that what he's shown early on is not bright and is not super positive, but I really think that that's his mindset. And I hope that that changes, because it's very clear from this entire season. That's my biggest takeaway. They're okay with this being a developmental year. And right now, the players, they haven't had an outcry. It's not like he's losing the locker room. It seems like they're just business as usual. They're just chugging along. So, I feel like if this regime is to turn it around, I think it's going to be on the back of a Drake May. And I think that Drake May has shown the potential to be a guy like Josh Allen. And I was wrong about Drake May so far. Drake May's impressed me. He's shown that, hey, he's a dude that doesn't need the greatest offensive line, albeit they are playing much better. He doesn't need the greatest offensive line. He can make plays happen. He can go rush, for 40, 50, 60 yards a game. He can make plays outside of the structure. So that's where I'm at with Gerard Mayo and this team. So I'd be curious to see how they go about it the rest of the season and how the locker room turns out. But that's my concern with them, is it seems like they're okay with mediocre. And that's where my concern is for the next couple seasons. How does this Bill Belichick era go out the window, and how do they head into this Gerard Mayo era? Because they're just happy to be there. And it depends on how this offseason goes. I feel like the players are okay with it. But Malik, I'm not too confident in this Patriots organization and how Gerard Mayo's running this ship, because like one of our comments said from Gary Jellison, Belichick did flame him in the media, and he held off, all his thoughts and opinions for the entire season before. He was praising Gerard Mayo, but for him to go out there and say, yeah, they are playing soft, that's been a theme all season long. So,
well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Bill, if anybody knows the Patriots culture, it's Bill, especially when you built the Patriots culture. You are the Patriots culture. This is the guy that when they ask people why hire Gerard Mayo versus going through a true interviewing cycle, why not interview people like Mike Vrabel and a bunch of other candidates that people thought made sense? You know what he said? What they said? Well, Gerard Mayo is the closest thing to Bill Belichick. It's updated idea. So for me, it's like, why fire the guy that you're trying to replace a guy that's most similar to the guy you're replacing? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you're saying, well, I'm firing Daniel as the COO of TWSN, right? And I'm going to promote Jimmy. Why? Well, because Jimmy and Daniel are very much alike. They're literally the spitting image of each other. Jimmy's just younger, right? Like that was a thought process.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually is younger, but if that was a thought process there, then he'd be like, okay, well, typically speaking, if you're trying to go anew, you're trying to upgrade the position. You're trying to get a guy that's going to come in here with a new voice, right? You had the real thing, and you swapped them out for the Temu version. That's my thought process.
Yeah.
You had the real thing. You had the guy with the championship accolades, and you swapped him out for a guy that his entire style as coaching was mimicked by the guy you're replacing, who built the Patriots culture. To me, it didn't make sense. Listen, love to see him win. Love to see Gerard Mayo win. Love to see him get the opportunity to be a head coach. But let's be honest with ourselves. Like, this was a move that when it first happened, all of us had the same sort of reaction. Don't know how that's going to work out for you. Very curious to see how it plays out. And it hasn't played out the way we expected so far. Now, Gerard Mayo could slap me in my face and be like, you know what, Malik, Next year, they could go on a run. They could compete for the AFCs. I just don't think he says things of a leader. And that's my problem with a lot of these player coaches types, right? That are they aren't that far removed from the game, if you will. It's sometimes hard to look at it from an outside perspective and realize that as a coach, no matter what you think, you do put the onus on yourself. The number one way to lose a locker room is to deflect. The number one way to have people doubt you is to have fair weather leadership, is to not be consistent. And for me, hearing Gerard Mayo speak, and again, maybe this is just a PR thing where he doesn't have the PR training to do it, that wasn't the right thing to say.
Yeah.
That wasn't the right thing to say. It is your job throughout the entire process. The reason why you get paid the big bucks, the reason why you are the head man in charge, to lead regardless. You know why Bill got the autonomy and got the ability to call players out in the media? He had 20 plus years of experience. He had 6 championships to show for it. So guess what? That means something. That means that you're revered. That means that people respect you. There's something that comes with success. It's respect. It's people taking you serious. It's people listening to you. Because there's something special about a Bill Belichick who probably doesn't even have to speak. You could just point to the trophy case. You could just point to the wins and loss record. This guy has won in New England. He has built New England to the staple that he is. So with all that being said, this can't shock people when you try to go out there and you try. That never happened under Bill.
Yeah.
That never happened under Bill. So to me, Robert Kraft and them, they're not going to move on from Gerard Mayo. That ain't happening. But I do think that this does raise real questions about his ability to lead and his leadership qualities. What does the locker room think about that? That's the big question. I'm curious. Let us know down in the comment section what you guys think of a Gerard Mayo. Make sure you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. And Sean Brown, I want to get to your comment as well. You said you could also point to his win-loss record without Brady. You are 100%. You're 100%. Without Brady, that team started to falter. But there was also a lack of talent at the quarterback position. They had to turn to people like an older Cam Newton was coming off the couch. They drafted a Mac Jones, which was ill-cited on Bill Belichick's part. No one ever said Bill was the greatest drafter, but men lie, numbers don't. The numbers say Bill Belichick is the greatest football coach in the modern day era. That's what the numbers say. People don't have to like it. Kansas City Chiefs fans who love Andy Reid don't have to like it. And I'm not saying that you're one of those. I'm just saying, I just know that there's that weird beef there. Bill Belichick has had so much success. I could even point to the season in which Tom Brady tore his MCL, and they still had a winning record, put up double-digit wins, just missed the playoffs just because the AFC was ultra-talented that year. Bill has had success. Bill went to the playoffs with Mac Jones as his quarterback. Let's not act like those things did not happen. Bill had success. Did he have championship success? No. But he's a hell of a coach? Yes. Do players believe in him? Yes. Is he the culture? Yes. That's him. That's him. Danny, you could talk about that a little more too.
No, for sure. And I think that's where there are two things, like Sean Brennan, like we appreciate you obviously always in the chat. Like Bill Belichick also hasn't really had the chance to prove what he is without a Tom Brady, right? He had his chance out, beforehand, and he had his chance after for 2 to 3 years. But I feel like this next stint, hopefully Bill Belichick, I'm sure, he wants to get another job.
Well, he's pointing to his days in Cleveland. You name me a coach that has really had success in Cleveland. He went 6-10 in Cleveland, 7-9 in Cleveland, 7-9 in Cleveland, 11-5 in Cleveland, second in the AFC. It went 5-11, left, went to New England. First year, New England went 5-11, then went 11-5, and then proceeded to win for 20 plus years. Like, yeah, look at Kyle Shanahan's record when he first took over the Niners. He had a losing record. Those things happen. Like,
and he also wasn't the coach that he is now. Like, respectfully, after 20 years of learning through those processes, he is a far better head coach than he was when he first started.
Yeah.
So there could be an argument
Yeah.
that he wasn't a good head coach before he got Tom Brady, but we're not going to, and this is the conversation, we're not going to pin this entire success on Tom Brady.
Well, why did so many people want him throughout the process? Right? Why this is a guy that was like to me, I just think that my thought process is I think that the conversation of trying to deflate, you see what I did there? They trying to deflate Bill Belichick's legacy is interesting to me. When you can point to so many different coaches from when they first took over, or when they were earlier on in their career, and the success that he had. You know, there's a coach by the name of Andy Reid who continuously lost to Bill Belichick when he was in Philly, who couldn't get over the hump while he was in Philly, and Philly stuck by that guy's side. And then he drafted a young quarterback. By the way, he came into a team that was already competitive, but had, guy Alex Smith, the whole 9 yards, was constantly competitive, was constantly putting up winning seasons. And then they drafted a quarterback on an ultra talented roster in the name of Patrick Mahomes, and the rest is history. But where does that guy's legacy or his career go down in memory galore without Patrick Mahomes? Where does it go? Right? People want to be forgetful about how his time was in Philly. I'm not forgetful about that. I remember that. I remember when they couldn't get over the hump. I also remember when they fired the guy and they thought a young offensive coordinator from the college ranks was going to come in and be able to do a better job than he did. So again, it takes time. It takes time for a lot of these coaches when you start off. All right. So that's just my thought process. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, yeah, that's it. And I think that Bill Belichick, the clear argument is that first off, the culture wasn't just Tom Brady. I see a lot of people saying that too. Like, Bill Belichick was a huge part of that culture. And like I said, I'm not going to blame his before Tom Brady record. I feel like that's a flawed way to look at this. I think that Bill Belichick still
also 20 plus years ago.
Yes. Like, that's way too long ago. And like, sure, we can say maybe Tom Brady, was a bigger part. Sure. But like I said, I also look at what Mac Jones did that rookie season. And I thought that was very impressive. And I still feel like every single season that Bill Belichick was there, his defense was super, super consistent. And we're looking at Tom Brady saying, hey, Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback of all time. Tom Brady plays one side of the football. He doesn't play.
I just want to say this, Sean, because I feel what your argument is right now. You said Reid went to 4 straight championships games and a Super Bowl with a B+ quarterback, and he lost. I just want to be very, very clear about something real quick. Because I want to make sure I'm looking at the camera and I'm being very clear to you. Andy Reid does not even hold a candle to Bill Belichick. Let's leave it. Let's just leave it there. Bill Belichick is the greatest football coach in the modern era that you've seen, Sean, that I've seen, any of us have seen. The success that he had with New England with lackluster talent at points because of their way, because they believed in special teams, defense, and offense, is the reason why they had that championship way. Let's not kid ourselves. The reason why Andy Reid has the championship is because of Patrick Mahomes. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a reason why that dude has 6 championships. That's just my thought process. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. And Sean, I don't believe it's a crazy take. I think you have a biased take, brother. And I just think that we have a way of sometimes erasing some of our greats in this sport, all because it's a new wave, or people tend to have a short-term memory. That's just my thought process. But let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. To me, this game that took place this past week between Colorado and Kansas could be an interesting look into what a future franchise might be getting if you draft Shedeur Sanders. Because for me, I don't care about you throwing a bunch of yards, stuff like that. I care how you deal with the face of it in the face of adversity. I care about how you deal with your team struggling, where you're not blowing teams out. That's what I care about, because I think the true measure of a leader is how you deal with setbacks. It's how I judge every quarterback that comes out. It's how I judged Trevor Lawrence when he was coming out of Clemson. It's the reason why I had my concerns that he might struggle in the NFL. Because, you could be that coach, he never dealt with any losing and all that kind of stuff like that. To me, that's not like a necessarily a resounding positivity, because you don't know what to glean from it. You don't know what to take from it. I like to see the guys that struggle, that have a hard time, and then see how they bounce back. Jimmy, let's roll the clip of Deion talking to his team.
Nobody in here can say you gave the maximum effort. You gave it all you could. It's nobody. And you see the result. See, the problem is you got intoxicated with success. And success is intoxicating. You start believing what they're saying. You start listening more to what they're saying. You bought into all that foolishness that you were this. And you went out there and we got humble. Coaches, players, everyone, we went out there and got humbled. But it is what it is. Where you go from here? Where you go from here? Like, where do you go from here? That's the critical thing. What do you do with this moment? What do you glean from this moment? What do you learn from this moment? Where do we go from here? Because this moment just ain't about football, this is about life. And this is a tremendous life lesson. Let's learn from it. Let's learn from it and grow from it. The question is, guys, I'm going to ask you one last time. Where do you go from here? God bless.
Before I jump into the Shedeur Sanders talk, I just want to say that was a hell of a speech given by Deion Sanders to his players. It was a hell of a speech. It kind of really impressed me. If you're a team that's looking like, hey, maybe we can, pry him away from Colorado or something like that, man, to me, that got me ready to run through a brick wall. But I do want to say one thing. You talked a lot about how your team bought into the success. Deion, you're the lead man. They follow your lead. I think you sort of bought into a lot of the team's success. I love the message. I thought the message was awesome. But you also are the head coach. You also are into the razzle-dazzle, the whole 9 yards. And let's not forget, you are the quarterback's dad. You are the quarterback's dad. We can shape this up however we want. But the fact of the matter is, this is what teams look at throughout the draft process for said quarterback. This is what people look at. Y'all the one that just got the, what was it, Marissa? 5-star recruit, the quarterback, Juju, and then, they're doing all these PR stuff where Shedeur's handing him the keys. Like, damn, bro, you didn't even win anything at Colorado. What are you talking about? Acting like you won a championship here. To me, there's too much outside involved with the image of the team, of yourself, of your son who's going to the NFL. There's not enough focus sometimes on the Colorado football team and the overall betterment of that program, in my honest opinion. Which brings me to my next point when it comes to Shedeur. There's just certain things you want to see from your quarterback often. I don't want to see my quarterback potentially getting into fights with the other team throughout the game, especially when we're down. It shows me mentally you're not as strong-headed as I'd like you to be. And for a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who came in with a lot of fanfare, right? Being trained by Tom Brady being his godfather, all that good stuff, his dad being Deion Sanders. And you would just think that the temperament of him would be better as a potential future franchise quarterback. Now, I don't know if it was the big stage, the big lights, maybe the stadium that got the Shedeur Sanders a little bit, but to me, there was a lot of boneheaded decisions, taking 15-step dropbacks, getting sacked in the backfield. Learn to throw the ball away. Every play doesn't have to be a boom.
Yeah.
It's the thing that they teach you when you're a quarterback. It's just sometimes you have to take what the defense gives you. And for me, if it was the stadium, if it was the big lights, if it was all that playing in an NFL stadium, the Chiefs Stadium, well, Shedeur, you better get used to it because there's a chance you might be playing in the Chiefs Stadium at the very least once a year if you get drafted by a certain team. To me, I think that there's just more that I would have liked to see from Shedeur from a leadership standpoint. One thing I will tell you is Travis Hunter, man, wow. That dude is a dog. He's a dog. He's a dog. Will that success translate to the NFL? I do have concerns about the mileage, playing both sides of the ball a little bit, and the durability. I do. But I will say that dude definitely is making a case for the Heisman Trophy and definitely potentially making a case for a top 5 pick as well. But Shedeur Sanders, from a leadership standpoint, Daniel, I want to hear what your thoughts are on Shedeur Sanders, future franchise quarterback of an NFL team, and what did you take away from the loss to Kansas? Yeah,
I think that Shedeur there are a couple things, like you said, he shoved the ref. Like that's something that 95% of players, if you put your hands and you clearly shove a ref, albeit it wasn't a crazy shove. If you put your hands on a ref, you're out of the game. And the other ref saw that. You clearly pushed the ref, and that's part of the temperament. Like you said, that it was a little concerning. I've always rocked with Shedeur. I thought Shedeur has been, a very overconfident person in a good way, right? As a quarterback, you need to be confident. I really like his confidence. I think that's important, especially when you look at him for the NFL. This game kind of showed me a lot, though, and I think that the defense was a huge part of the problem. Deion Sanders, same thing. I think Deion Sanders should wear a lot of this burden because he did an interview during the game after the first quarter, and they asked him, "Hey, Deion, what's your thoughts? You're heading into, you're down." And he's like, we got a lot of game left. Like, he was super confident. He wasn't even concerned. They were down by like either 10, they were down by 13 points. He didn't even care. He said, "Listen, we got a lot of time." And I'm with you. I think that he was overconfident, and they went out and they got dog walked. It was a tough performance by them. They were in the game, but it never felt like they were in control. So that brings me to Shedeur heading into the NFL. I don't know if Shedeur deserves to be a top 5 pick, to be honest. What I saw a quarterback that's a fine quarterback. I actually really like, how at certain moments, especially early on in the game, he does take what the defense gives him. But I think that's to a fault too. I think that there's too many times where he's just checking down. And when you really look at it, some of the biggest plays that they've had, even this entire season, have been to Travis Hunter. It's been quick screens to Travis Hunter. You look at that touchdown pass, it was a fine touchdown pass, but a lot of it is 7-step, 14-step dropbacks, dropping way back. He's not hyper athletic. He's a fine athlete. He doesn't use his legs a lot in the running game. I think that Shedeur is a fine quarterback, but Malik, does he deserve to be a top 5 quarterback right now? I don't think that he's proven it yet. I think that he's shown some of the stats.
You say top 5 what?
Like, or top 5 pick in the NFL. Okay. I don't think so. And I think that he's going to get a lot of hype because of the Deion Sanders. But like, this game, for me, from what I saw, I mean, we watched pretty much most of this game, and he just looked fine. And that's part of, this evaluation of, hey, are we going to blame him for the defensive struggles? No, but we're also not going to, not ridicule him and not, analyze the part of the game where he had many chances in this game and they just couldn't get it done. So I think that they'll bounce back from this. I do like how he's a confident person. And like I said, I just have to see more from him.
But is the confidence manufactured? That's the conversation.
Yeah.
Is the confidence manufactured? Is the confidence because you already know you have the hype? Is the confidence because you know who your dad is? I'm very curious to see what he looks like without Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Is the confidence manufactured? Is the confidence manufactured because you know you're the man of Colorado because of the glitz, the glamour, and you got rappers, you got DJ Khaled saying it's the Shedeur. You got all these people coming out in droves and supporting you who've never even probably even met you until you've started experiencing success. Is it manufactured?
I think so. I think so. But the issue, and I'm with you, I think that we're going to find out a lot about him if he's not with Deion. I'm just curious what happens, because there's a chance where, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen with Deion. We don't know if he's going to follow him. And I feel like there's a certain time where if it's manufactured for long enough, it could become part of you. And I feel like that's where Shedeur, I do believe Shedeur believes his own hype too much. Mm-hmm. And that's where he believes everybody's telling him, you're this superstar, you're this, you're that. The NFL is a different beast. Yeah. And that's where, if we're having this conversation, how he's going to look in the NFL, I think that there's a lot of questions to be asked. He does not look like a quarterback that can come in right away and change the face of a franchise. He looks like a quarterback that's going to need a lot of help, Malik.
To me, it looks like a quarterback that I won't say it's going to be one way or the other. I'll just say he looks like a quarterback that I have questions about his leadership qualities. I have questions about his leadership ability. It feels like that's the theme of today's show. I don't mean for it to be, but I do have questions about that, because if your dad is trying to manufacture where you go and put you in an ideal situation, which could be like the Raiders, where your godfather is also has ownership in Tom Brady, and probably your dad is probably going to be looking to get involved with that organization to some degrees. And Antonio Pierce going to be the guy that they choose to say, hey, can lead with him effectively. I have no idea, but I do have questions long-term about his ability to lead, especially in year. I just think that there is something to be said about a manufactured leadership approach. And we've seen that in the past with some quarterbacks. There's just like, oh, because they're the quarterback, they feel the need to say, hey, he's a great quarterback. He's a great leader. He's our team captain. To me, I don't feel like team captains mean as much in college football as they may have used to be. So I just have some thoughts on that. Let us know in the comment section what you guys' thoughts are on Shedeur Sanders and his future in the NFL. Do favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Hey, listen, I hate to say I told you so, but who am I kidding? I love to say I told you so. Bryce Young looks like he has turned a corner for the Carolina Panthers. Carolina took the Kansas City Chiefs to the brink yesterday. Bryce Young looked good yesterday. And so, Daniel, there was a lot of people in the chat maybe saying that Bryce Young is a bust. Bryce Young is this and a third. And obviously, one game does not absolve you of all the mistakes you probably have made, but he has looked good now the last few weeks. And he just looked good against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? In a big way. Who everybody was saying the Kansas City Chiefs have a good defense, the whole 9 yards, yada, yada, yada. What were your thoughts on Bryce Young yesterday? Do you think the Panthers have their guy? And are you a believer in Dave Canales as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, so I think that first off, we have to give props to Bryce Young. Bryce Young is, let me just say this, that was a top 5 quarter, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but that was a top 5 quarterback performance of the entire season. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of layers to that game, but this was a dude, first off, a praise to Bryce Young. He's gone
praise to Bryce.
All praise to Bryce Young, man. He has gone through it. Right, week 8, he was got replaced Andy Dalton after being benched, after having all this talk about him, and he went into New Orleans, won in New Orleans, and then he went, won another game, and then now went into Kansas City and almost won this game. Bryce Young put on a clinic against Kansas City Chiefs. It was an absolute clinic. You go look at the throws under pressure. He was 11 or 13 against the blitz against the Chiefs. He is doing this with talent like Xavier Legette dropping 2 passes. He's doing this with subpar talent at the receiver position. He's doing this with subpar talent at the offensive line position. And there was, credits to the offensive line. They looked good in spurts, but he was making plays with Chris Jones up the middle. He was making plays under pressure. He was making plays outside of the pocket. And this dude was just confident. And I think that Bryce Young is really starting to turn a new leaf. But this is what we've seen out of Bryce Young. And that's where we have to start giving young quarterbacks more leeway than we do, right? Bryce Young being benched, sure, it was maybe the right decision in the moment, but that was never an indictment of how good Bryce Young can be in the future. This dude always has had excellent ball placement, and the areas that he put his passes were superb. I mean, he was throwing deep balls. He was throwing 25+ yard passes in the red zone, multiple drop passes in the end zone by Jatavion Sanders, by Xavier Legette. And this dude was just spot on for the entire game. And we talk about going into opposing territory. That game actually might have been at home. My fault. But going in this, 2 minutes, down 8 points, leading a game-winning drive, potentially game-tying drive, and he looked amazing. And that's with all, the lack of talent around him. So I think that Bryce Young he can be the franchise quarterback. And for him being, drafted number 1 overall, maybe people were overhyping him. Maybe he shouldn't have been the number 1 overall pick, but that should never be the final, sentiment on a player. We should never just say, well, you were drafted number 1 overall. If you're not living up to that, you are done. No, that's not how the NFL works. This dude can be the franchise quarterback. This dude can lead them to success. They just need to add more talent around them. So this was a huge confidence booster for Bryce Young. This was a huge confidence booster for their team, and they're on a roll right now. So props to the Carolina Panthers. They've got a lot more talent to add. They've got a lot more to do when it comes to roster construction. But if you're a Panthers fan, this conversation versus 5 weeks ago when we were talking about trading Bryce Young, talking about Dave Canales is the problem, talking about Bryce Young can't have success on the Panthers, I'm just glad that the Panthers, albeit it wasn't their, their decision to start him, it's because of an Andy Dalton injury. But the fact of the matter is he's starting now. He got the opportunity and he looks good now. So I think that Bryce Young can be, the franchise quarterback, and I think he's looked damn good. So
Yeah, man. I think Dave Canales, the job that he did with Baker Mayfield is now proving, true even with the Bryce Young, although the sample size has been very, very limited.
Yeah.
I, I was told by a friend today, Malik, you may have been right, or yesterday, you may have been right about Bryce Young. He looks like Alabama Bryce Young.
Mhm.
Now, when I was said to me, I was like, I don't know if that one is Alabama Bryce Young, even though he won a Heisman Trophy. I just always felt like there were some questions there, but he definitely is starting to look more like the guy that they had hoped he would when they drafted him. It seems like the confidence is there. And it's amazing what happens when you allow a young coach that his expertise is fixing these quarterbacks, right?
Mhm.
And getting them to play up to their standard, their level, and play with a certain level of confidence. And it's amazing what happens when you give him the time to work with these guys and the job that he's able to do. So kudos to Dave Canales so far and Bryce Young. Hopefully this could be a hopefully this could be a positive step in the right direction for Bryce Young in his maturation process as a quarterback. Sean Brennan says done a lot of coach blaming this morning. Canales deserves some credit. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be that way this morning, but you know what? The conversation is what it is, and I just think that he deserves a lot of credit for the media storm that he went through, where people were calling for his job, saying he wasn't the right man. And then for Bryce Young to be benched, obviously, and get the opportunity to still prove himself, especially when you had teams calling at the trade deadline for Bryce Young, right? It shows what happens when you don't give up. It shows you what the league's overall thoughts on Bryce Young is, which is the guy still has a lot of potential. He still has a lot of potential to do some special stuff. So if you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live, when we upload content. Let's move the conversation over to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are coming back off their bye week this week, and it felt like it went by pretty quick. While the Bengals went on a bye, we went on a little bit of a hiatus too, bye week, and now we're back. Now, it brings up the question, Daniel. Obviously, not even a question, it's more so a statement. This is it's now or never for the Bengals. It's now or never for the Bengals and their playoff hopes. And if they plan to make any type of a postseason run, they have to hope to try and run the table, which is a large task to do. But it's now or never, which brings up the question, who do we need to see step up? What are the keys to the Bengals going on a winning streak? Daniel, I'll let you start this one off.
Yeah, man. I think there's two conversations. We can talk about playoffs, Malik. My issue with the playoff discussion right now, and this is the situation you put yourself in, you really don't control your own destiny. And you have to do what you have to do. You have to focus on the games that you have ahead of you. But there's a world where you go and you win 5 of your next 6 and you don't make the playoffs, and it's because of the situation you put yourself in. So for this team, you just have to go out here, and I'm very confident that, you've got, this is a top 5 easiest schedule the rest of the season when it comes to the rest of these games. You got teams like the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, they just won, but they don't look like a formidable opponent. You got other teams with quarterbacks that aren't great. And it really comes down to this Pittsburgh Steelers game. You have to build some confidence in this locker room. And same discussion we kind of had with the New York Giants. There is a sentiment that Zach Taylor has lost the locker room. There is a sentiment that this team is not going to rally behind their head coach. But as we've said on the show, as you've pointed out many times, this team typically does well after a bye. So we're going to see what type of team the Cincinnati Bengals team is. How do they respond to this adversity? And I'm confident that they can show some flashes. They just have to go in here and win a gritty game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It really is now or never. But when we talk about the playoffs, Malik, right now they've got less than a 10% chance to make the playoffs. They're currently 4-6 or 4-7. You're 2.5 games back of the Denver Broncos. And that's the part where you're going to have to hope, and you're going to have to hope you get lucky. You do, right? You got teams ahead of you like the Miami Dolphins, who are only 1 game ahead of you. And it's just a situation where you got to control what you got to control. But man, that's the hard part. It really is out of your control right now. So this Pittsburgh Steelers game, you just have to have a good week of practice, and you got to win a gritty game, because that's been the gripe and the issue with Zach Taylor and this Bengals team is you don't win AFC North football games, right? You can never consistently sweep teams. It's always a dogfight, and that's how the division is. But you put yourself in a position where you might have to go 3-0 the rest of the season in division, and you're going to have to do the improbable. So I think that this is really on it's really on the game planning for this Pittsburgh Steelers game. And I hate to say it, but it's going to be on late game decision making. I'm very confident this game comes down to the fourth quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's how it always
I
comes
agree.
down to.
Yeah.
And it really is going to be late game management. For as much as we can say Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they've got to do this, they've got to do that. I'm confident we're going to be heading on Sunday with a 3 to 7 point game, whether the Bengals are ahead or they're playing from behind. It's going to be a close game. And how do you manage that late in the fourth quarter? Because you're going to have your chance against the Steelers.
Especially in the secondary. Yeah.
And I'm very confident. Once again, the Steelers team, they're just gritty, but they don't look like a super team. They play close games and they win close games.
You know that, and that's sort of what we were talking about before with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This has nothing to do with Bengals. This is more so what our concerns were. Was when everyone was talking about 1 seed for Pittsburgh and all that kind of stuff potentially, it was the concern was they hadn't faced anybody really. They hadn't faced anyone yet, especially in the division. So we, obviously they beat the Ravens, they lose to the Browns, and now you're like, oh, are the Steelers as good as we think they are? Are they not? Obviously there were some factors that played into the game with the snow, the whole 9 yards, but the Browns also had to play in that as well. This is put up or shut up time. This is prove it time for the Bengals. And I thought what you said was so poignant. You said, critical coaching down the stretch is going to be pivotal. You have to find a way to win these close score games. And for the Bengals defense, can they establish any type of consistency, especially in the secondary and in the pass rush, not named Trey Hendrickson, to keep this thing going? Those are going to be the big questions. If they can, then there is a chance, because you do have a schedule coming up where there are some games that you can perceive as winnable for the Bengals. But I'm pretty sure those teams are probably looking at the Bengals as winnable as well. Now, a team like the Titans are putting it together, right? They just beat the Houston Texans. A team like the Cowboys are putting it together. They just beat the Washington Commanders. And while everybody's so confident about Cooper Rush, that one scares me a little bit. It makes me, not want to say scares me a little nervous, because last time we faced the Cowboys and we lost to the Cowboys, it was to Cooper Rush. And I just think that there's something to be said about, letting a result beat you. I think the Bengals can't let how the season started beat them. This is a new season in their mind. That's how you have to look at it after the bye week. Mathematically speaking, you're still in it. Mathematically, you still can win double-digit games, even though you'd have to win out.
It's crazy.
Which is crazy to think. And I guess that's a tip of the hat to the NFL and the NFL Player Association for adding another game. But to me, yes, Gary, yes. He says, are they going to get their mower out and cut their own grass? Yeah, you have to cut your own grass. You can't worry about divisions. You can't worry about where you're standing in the conference. You have to just play the game that's ahead of you. This is where you get lost in the season. You ever play Madden and you're playing Madden, and you're playing all these games, and you start to just forget where you are, where the standings are, what's going on. That's how it is sometimes. You have to look at it from that perspective. You have to just dial in and dive in to what you can control. What you can control is the team that's ahead of you right now. And it's crazy enough, every team looks like they're improving that the Bengals have on their schedule. Every team that we looked at, we said, oh, well, the Steelers are the one team that seems like they may be in a weird spot. But the Broncos look damn good under Bo Nix, right? Will Levis looks confident with the Titans. Cooper Rush looks confident with the Cowboys. I mean, it's a lot of stuff is churning in a weird direction. Now, can the Bengals control their own destiny and get this ship righted? It's gonna be interesting. You're gonna have to dial in. You have no other choice but to dial in, right? You have to dial in. You have to see if you guys can go on a run here. And if they can go on a run, we might be talking about this team a little bit more on the show. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live. Listen, I just want to bring something up. Don't even bring it up on the screen. You know what? Actually, bring it up on the screen. I just want to say I'm so disgusted with Alabama. I'm so disgusted with Alabama. Yeah, I'm disgusted with Alabama. I don't know. I don't know where to. Well, I know what to blame, so to speak. I'll just say this. I think that, having a new guy come in who's trying to bring in his own culture to Alabama, it was always going to take a little bit of time, but putting up 3 points. Yeah. This is probably one of the worst losses I've seen as an Alabama fan. I'll also say, hopefully hopefully the party dies, right? And hopefully people could stop bringing up Jalen Milroe as a top 10 talent in the NFL draft. Believe it or not, there were those talks out there. There are people saying, well, should the Giants be interested in Jalen Milroe? Absolutely not. To me, I think that Jalen Milroe is a talented athlete. I don't think he will be a franchise quarterback. That's just my thought process. He relies a lot on his athleticism. He does have a huge arm, but what good is it if you're not always willing to let the arm go? You know what I mean? To me, if you're drafting a quarterback that's going to be game changing for you, you obviously want them in the right frame of mind. You obviously want them to understand how to read defenses and be on the ins and outs, understand the ins and outs of the game. I think that there's a lot with Jalen Milroe's game that I think leaves to be desired. I think that guy is much closer to a 3rd round pick. If you ask me, that's just my thought process. Who knows? Maybe he'll shock me. Maybe he'll be like a Jalen Hurts, and he'll go in the 2nd round of a draft, and he'll go to an ideal team that drafts him, and he does great. Maybe I could be wrong, and I'll eat crow if that's wrong. But to me, I've just never been a believer in Jalen Milroe. It always felt like, I'll leave those comments to myself. But I think that the Alabama Crimson Tide program is in a weird spot. Alabama is no longer revered as that one team that people were scared to face. It seems like teams see Alabama as beatable. They see them as mortal. I'll just be honest with you. And I think that there's Bama just, I think that's the best way to put it, Wes Uday. Bama, we just don't look like Bama. Bama does not look like Bama right now. And I think that this is just an interesting spot. It almost is very similar to the New England Patriots to a degree, right? Kalen DeBoer takes over Alabama, coming from Washington, a program that he definitely built up. Definitely not as strong. They're much more of the finesse type program. They have a lot of talent, especially.
He only coached 2 years.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
The thing, man.
Yeah. And so now you're wondering, okay, what's going on with Bama? Do I think the guy's in danger of losing his job? No. I do think the boosters will start talking though.
Yeah.
And I do think that I do think how they end the season is going to be so important. That could be important. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think that hindsight is obviously 2020. I'm not saying that this dude is not going to be a successful coach for Bama, but if you are replacing the greatest coach of all time, you need to be sure. And I look at a guy like Kalen who had success, but he had 4 years of coaching experience before going to Alabama. And you had 2 years with Washington with elite talent at wide receiver, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Polk. You had Michael Penix Jr., who was a phenomenal passer. There was always going to be growing pains. And the issue is you look at what Nick Saban did with Jalen Milroe last year, 11-1, playing with his, limitations and playing to his strengths. Kalen DeBoer is struggling with that. And they were a team this past week, Malik, they got outcoached. That's what it was. They are a far better, far more talented team than Oklahoma, but they got outcoached. Jalen Milroe was his rushing game was literally taken out of the equation by Oklahoma. And Oklahoma said, hey, Jalen, this is what we're going to do. We are going to play our run fits. We are going to stop your rushing ability, beat us through the air. And they couldn't do it. They put up 3 points. And that's, in my opinion, that's an indictment on the coaching staff. And that's an indictment on the game planning for this team. And obviously there were some calls here and there. Ryan Williams had that touchdown that could have been called for a touchdown, but still you would have lost 24-10 there. So I'm still going to give him leeway, but it's very clear the culture. It's very clear that they are not Alabama, and something's got to change. And we can blame the players all we want. There was a clear difference last year versus this year. They won close games last year. They're not doing that this year. They got outcoached, and I think that that's what it comes down to. He was going to go through growing pains as his first year as head coach, but that's what I'm concerned with. So they're 8-3. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs now. I don't know where they're ranked. I don't know if the rankings have came out yet, but man, it's tough times for Alabama, and they look good at points this season, Malik. But college is all about coaching to your players' strengths, and I feel like Kalen's kind of struggling with that with Jalen Milroe right now. So we'll see how they respond from him. But 8-3 is Bama fans are calling for his head, which is terrible. Right now.
It's an interesting spot to be. It's got a pivotal matchup coming up this week. You want to talk about boosters? You want to talk about people, on the team they're going to be watching a game coming up with very, very wide eyes. I would say it's against the Auburn this week. I think that this could be a game that really dictates a lot. This is a rivalry here that's extremely important to the program, and I think that if Kalen DeBoer is able to rattle off victory, I think there'll be a vote of confidence moving into the future. But if he's not able to rattle off victory here, I think things could get interesting in in Alabama.
Mhm.
I really believe that. If you guys could do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Listen, it would not be a morning show if we did not talk about some of our favorite bets. It was an interesting week. We had some very, very good week when it came to UFC. A lot of NBA bets hit as well. Yeah, what are some of your favorite plays?
Yeah, we got a huge Monday Night Football game, and we're going to get to that. I'm going to give 2 NBA props I really like first, and then we'll go to the NFL. There's a game that I absolutely love right now, and it's the Detroit Pistons versus Toronto Raptors. The Pistons right now, and this is kind of, once again, my philosophy too. I love looking at injuries and seeing who is going to replace that role, who's going to fill that. And I look at the Pistons right now, who are currently without Cade Cunningham. And Cade Cunningham is out. I believe he's out for a couple more games as well. But there's a guy who's scoring a ton for them, and that's Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley was brought in this offseason to kind of be the scorer. You know, they brought in Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. But Malik Beasley has hit his over 16.5 in 8 of 10 games, and 8 of those were actually with Cade Cunningham. So without Cade Cunningham, he's going to see 15 to 20 shots, 16.5 points. Malik, I'm absolutely huge fan of. He's hit 4 threes in 8 straight games. So as simple as I can put it, this dude is a shooter. This dude shoots the hell out of the 3-ball, and he has not had a game with less than 9 3-point attempts in this entire season. So I'm looking at a guy who's shooting the hell out of the 3-ball. I like his over 16.5 points. I like his over 3.5 threes. This dude shoots hell out of the ball, and the Raptors, respectfully, aren't a very good defending team. So give me Malik Beasley. I'm a huge fan of him. And then we got the Boston Celtics versus the Los Angeles Clippers. This one's pretty simple for me. The Boston Celtics have been a phenomenal first half team, and especially at home, they have been phenomenal. They're a team where they kind of let teams come back in the fourth quarter, and a lot of that has to do with whether that's complacency or whether that's, you know, game flow, or whether that's they shoot the hell out of the 3-ball. It's a kind of like a shock when teams first face the Celtics in that first half, but they've hit their first half line in 7 of 8 games. And I look at the first half line, I believe it's at -6.5. They're facing the Clippers team. I'm just not confident in the Clippers. Clippers are a very weirdly constructed team. They've got James Harden. I like Zubac's matchup as, you know, a big center, but give me the Boston Celtics -6.5 in the first half. It's simply the best team in the NBA, or second best team for, you know, people that are looking at the record, against a Clippers team who's clearly inferior. Give me -6.5 at home for the Boston Celtics. And then want to go over NBA or
Go yours. Yeah.
and then I'll give one more NBA. The Pacers are playing the Pelicans, and this is a matchup that I watched very closely last year. We actually watched this game, Malik, at last year when we were at the NFL Combine. Went saw this game, went and saw Zion play against the Pacers at home. We got the same exact matchup, and a dude who did really well against them was Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam's got a very good matchup. They're still without Zion, and they got some lengthy wings, but Pascal Siakam's points, in my opinion, 20.5. I just like him at 20+ points. Tyrese Halliburton has not been that dude this year. He's been super inconsistent. I like some of their guards, but it's simple. Pascal Siakam's playing 35 minutes a night. He is kind of their engine to their offense. I'm very confident he's seen at least 7 free throw attempts a game. Give me Pascal Siakam's 20+ points. And then Monday Night Football, this is a huge matchup. We got the Harbaughs, right? Chargers versus the Ravens. We see a lot of people here who are on the Baltimore Ravens, but I actually think the Chargers can play with the lead in this one. I think that the Chargers kind of force the Ravens to play from behind. And there's a prop that I really like, and that's Lamar Jackson's passing yards. Lamar Jackson was kind of banged up, 2 weeks ago. There was questions about him not practicing. You go look at what he's done in recent weeks against the Bengals. A couple weeks ago, he didn't run a lot. I believe he only had 35 rushing yards. Last week against Steelers, the dude only rushed for 4 times. I'm taking his over passing yards. I think we see him, throw the ball 25 to 30 times. His over 230 passing yards, Malik, he's hit that in 90% of games this year. There were only 2 games where he didn't hit over 230 passing yards. So in a game, I think it's going to be a lot closer. The people expect. I could see the Chargers playing with the lead. Give me Lamar Jackson's over 230 passing yards. And if there's one more that I like, once again, you guys can go to the Patreon for full best bets, NFL, NBA, UFC. I think it's pretty simple, but I'm going with J.K. Dobbins score a touchdown. The Ravens rushing defense has been absurd. They've been, a top 5 rushing team, but they've given up a decent amount of touchdowns to opposing running backs. And this is a Chargers team. They have struggled in the red zone, but I think that J.K. Dobbins can get in the red zone and get in the end zone plus 105. But I love Lamar Jackson's over passing yards. That's definitely my favorite play for Monday Night Football.
Man, I'll just say this is one play that I like tonight for NBA. And it's mainly because I really love the matchup. I love Jokic to get a triple double tonight. You guys never really hear me utter the words triple double. That's usually my friend over here. But I just like his matchup. I think he'll get his points, but I think he's going to be much more the facilitator of this game. He'll have to be because the matchup stat, I feel like the New York Knicks sort of bring to him. He's going to have to be able to get his guys involved. I also was looking at Russell Westbrook's line a little bit for some of his assists. Assistant at 5.5. I don't know if that's a favorable matchup. I don't know if it's exactly a line he's going to hit, but it is something that I am tailing. As far as the rest of my picks, you guys can subscribe to the TWS and Patreon to get those. Listen, we appreciate you guys for making us a part of your morning routine. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, having the conversation, man, and that is the right way. We appreciate all of your thoughts on the various topics we talked about, from the Bengals to Shedeur Sanders, Brian Dable's future, and so much more. We hope that you guys have a very fruitful betting season tonight in the NBA, but also for Monday Night Football. As a Bengals fan, gonna be rooting for the Chargers, but still, it's gonna be a good matchup. Last time these two teams faced each other was actually in the Super. Well, last time these two coaches faced each other was in the Super Bowl. So this is gonna be an interesting matchup. Good on the NFL for making this too a primetime game too, knowing that the Harbaugh brothers going at each other. That'll be a big storyline, I'm sure, and it's probably special to both of those two facing each other and their families as well. But again, want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to the show. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studio. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.